Who was Reilly? She was much more than the Fort Erie teen who was killed as a result of the accident of Boxing Day. We called her Smiley Reilly because she had a dazzling smile that she wore constantly. And with that great smile came great charisma that touched the lives of many people. As a child, she had this precocious wit and this great sense of creative artistry that later developed into this unusual capacity for friendship and a sensitivity to the needs of others. You only have to visit Facebook today to read the stories from thousands of people whose lives she's touched and who she's transformed. In the weeks following her death, we are continuously amazed by the stories from other teenagers in this community who talk about how Reilly befriended them during dark or troubled times in their own lives. Reilly, as you know, died on December 27th as a result of injuries that caused internal bleeding that were sustained in a motor vehicle accident. Reilly was a passenger in this vehicle, and the accident occurred on Highway 3 at Nye Road. The accident was a result of weather conditions that evening, namely icy roads. And we are so thankful to this community who have wrapped their love and their support around Reilly's family and around her friends. There are just too many to name. Many of you are sitting here this evening. We are also so thankful for our faith that we know that Reilly's in a better place. But it still feels so wrong. There are so many questions that are still not answered. And it is very hard to watch the absolutely agonizing grief of her parents, her brother, her family, and her very many friends. I feel I need to speak tonight because Reilly was a young woman who throughout her whole life, as short as it was, she stood for courage. She had very strong convictions and she wasn't afraid to speak to them. And her sense of justice always prevailed, particularly for students that she was in school with who had no voice. She was a great debater who always won her arguments. And perhaps her legacy is to find justice in this community so that similar tragedies in the future can be avoided. I recall the night that my mother spoke at the Leisureplex before a community gathering of 5,000 people to try and convince Dr. Kitts that the closure of Fort Erie's ER and hospital were a mistake. Many spoke of the loss of life that could happen. And when my mom came home that evening, we too talked about what's going to happen when people begin to die in this community, never realizing that it would be our own. Now we wonder if Reilly is one of the faces to this greatest fear. We know that Reilly was alive following the accident. We understand that she sustained internal injuries, including a broken pelvis, that resulted in internal bleeding. We understand from the police that she was alive when she entered the ambulance and was talking with the ambulance officers and was coherent. We understand that she went into hemorrhagic shock, which requires immediate blood transfusions. We understand that just as she was arriving at the Welland Hospital, she died. Reilly required massive blood transfusions, something that cannot be done in an ambulance, and something that can only be done in a hospital. And we wonder, as all of us in the community do, if the closure of the Douglas Memorial site and the Colborne site played a direct role in Reilly's death, given the extra time that it took to transport her to the Welland Hospital. We wonder if time was a factor in obtaining the critical blood transfusions that she needed while she was still alive to stabilize her condition so that she could be transferred to a trauma center. I personally believe that it could have made a difference. We all know that minutes count in critical life-threatening situations. Reilly's parents have asked the coroner for an inquest into her death to determine if time was a factor, given the closure of the ER in Fort Erie and Fort Colborne. They know that nothing is going to bring Reilly back, but they don't want anyone else in this community to have to walk the path they've had to walk. Thank you.